Ever since the day that you went away, you went away.
Hi guys, if you're new here, my name is Andra. I make commentary videos on pop culture and influencers. Today's video is kind of old tea, if you can even call it that, because it's not tea, it's like very serious, but I did not want to talk about anything related to the thing in the title, the Nazis, because when this whole thing happened, it was January, and January is a very important month for people who had families who suffered in the Holocaust. I'm Eastern European, so I do feel a lot of pain talking about that whole subject because Eastern Europeans have been the demographic that suffered the most in terms of numbers. So if you look up how many soldiers from the Soviet army have died in World War II, you'll get a result of 27 million to a max possible, because they couldn't find all the bodies, of 40 million people. And this is not me taking the spotlight from other minorities who have been hurt by this whole situation. Obviously, Jewish people, Romani people, disabled people, gay people. There were a lot of people who were hurt by this. And this is not me like making it about myself, but I do feel like it's hard for me sometimes to talk about these things, because the more I read about it, the more like depressed it makes me. And genuinely, January, when the whole drama happened, I didn't feel like I was able to make it about this situation, because January is the month which has the days of the Auschwitz liberation of the people in the camps by the Red Army who saved them, and also it has another important day, which is when the siege was lifted in the Soviet Union, the monstrous siege of Leningrad, which starved out so many people, and finally when it was lifted, obviously people could breathe again and have some sort of advantage to win the war. And yeah, the Red Army obviously won the war, so it's still like sad because the losses that we suffered were colossal. And to see a person who has no relation to any of the people who were hurt by World War II or by the Holocaust or anything like that try to make a romanticized version of an SS general and say that that is their expression of art, and like romanticize the whole thing that they have nothing to do with, that their families have had nothing to do with. It's just insane. And I would also like to mention that this artist, sarahpdraws, who did the whole thing with the Nazi art, which I'm going to talk about in a second, is of Spanish descent, or is actually like Spanish. He's born in Spain. And Spain in World War II, what did they do? Oh yeah, they sent a bunch of fucking soldiers to join the ranks of the SS, of the Nazi Germany army. And they did this on the condition that they would use the Spanish soldiers only to kill Soviet soldiers. So I'm allowed to fucking be upset. Because the leader of Spain at the time probably thought that the Western people are more worthy of being alive, but we are disposable as Eastern Europeans. If you can tell, I'm Eastern European, I'm fucking pissed. And yeah, the fucking, we got killed by your fucking great-grandparents possibly. And I'm not gonna be happy about that shit. And yeah, I don't think you should fucking romanticize the Nazis, because you are part of the problem here. And this problem is like obviously the continuation of neo-Nazis and everything like that. So the theme of this art that she's been drawing, which is on screen now, is a non-consensual romance between a Nazi soldier and a British war prisoner, which is not really historically accurate because the Brits barely did anything in the whole war. It was the Soviets who endured the most pain in World War II. But whatever, let's move on from that, because honestly I'm happier that they chose a British person than if they had a Russian soldier or like a Soviet soldier in general. I would have been pissed off if they took one of us and made us into this non-consensual BDSM weird relationship. This is damaging to so many communities. This is damaging to the obviously gay community and BDSM community too. And the fact that this person had to apologize but never faced any real repercussions, because this happened a month ago and people already forgot about this shit. Like, I don't get it. Here is some of the art in which this person is making jokes about AIDS and about, the stereotype of gay men having AIDS. Just really horrible. This is the comment in which this person confirms that this relationship is non-consensual. Sarah also encourages people to fetishize and romanticize that character by responding positively to comments that do this. Oh, did I mention that this character was actually named after a real Nazi? Yeah, Yeah, it's not fucking great. So William is this character that is the British soldier, and Heydrich is the actual Nazi in real life. And let's read this mess. The General Heydrich was the person who was responsible for what William is now in present. During the war, William had the misfortune to fall into the enemy's hands. Heydrich was the coldest, cruel, and ruthless person he could have ever known. One of the ways he tortured William was to make him starve and fed him only with bodies, organs of soldiers who died being prisoners of the enemy. William hopefully managed to escape, but his way of being received an unexpected turn. He was not the same as before. So here you have the real person, which this romanticized version is based on. He's one of the people who planned the final solution. So if you don't know what it is, you can guess by the name. It's the mass murder of Jews, obviously. And they were planning to murder all Jews, not just from Europe, but from an international scale. These are some of the accounts that this person follows. They are literally Nazi accounts, or some of them are accounts that promote CP and like weird non-consensual art, and you can see here that this account follows them. I don't know if they still do to this day, because after they had to issue an apology, I assume they would have unfollowed them. People have confronted this whole situation by saying, why do you have a Nazi OC? And the response was, because I want. Okay, if I want to punch you in the face, then is it okay to respond because I want? This is a confirmation that this person is a Nazi, but apparently it's a parody of a Nazi. A parody is not supposed to be romanticized, and people are not supposed to send thirsty messages calling them daddy and stuff. That's not really a parody, but whatever. What does he represent, if you don't mind? Some things I cannot say because they're very personal, but basically he's one of my alter egos. So which part of that is the alter ego? Is it the Nazi part? Is it the homophobic one mocking people with AIDS? Is it the part which talks about cannibalism? Which is your alter ego? I want to know. This is another piece of proof of this account confirming and even encouraging people to be sending thirsty messages about this character, which is obviously disgusting. This is Sarah encouraging fan art of the Nazi character, because yeah, that's a thing apparently. I'm so exhausted. This is like one of the most like annoying things that I've ever had to witness, but whatever. Let's go through this fast because I do feel like it needs to be talked about, but I don't really want to talk about it. I don't want to be the one to do the fucking emotional labor when my people have suffered in World War II, whatever. Let's go. This person attempted to do multiple apologies, which were obviously not received well at first. The last one was received a little bit better in that there were people actually defending this in the comments. None of whom were Slavic, Jewish, Roma, or any other minority that was affected by this, so I don't think that the apology is for them to accept, but whatever. I apologize if I had offended you at some point. I'm sorry if I have hurt many of my Jewish followers because of what happened recently. I acknowledge the mistakes I have made over this serious situations when making this story with these two characters, and I recognize that it wasn't done in the right way and that I must take importance of the opinions from the groups affected by the ideology mentioned in it before writing a story that touches serious themes. It was never my intention to offend someone, but I understand if there were people who misunderstood many of my works. Misunderstood? We're not stupid. What do you mean misunderstood? Since I had not executed them in a respectful and correct way. I have already shared my views and my philosophy regarding life clear in the past clarifications. It is clear to me that the issue of the Holocaust must be taken seriously and not taken lightly. And here is another thing, is you think that the damage the Nazis have done starts and ends at the Holocaust. There were a lot of war crimes that were done by the Nazis outside of the Holocaust to the Soviets. There are a lot of things that are happening today with the neo-Nazis. And there are a lot of things that happened during the Holocaust that still to this day affect the families of the either victims or survivors of the Holocaust. So no, it doesn't start and end at the Holocaust. And the fact that you only mention the Holocaust makes me feel like you probably don't really know history, or you're a Nazi. This is one of the two. You can either be a Nazi and minimize every other war crime except for the one that is discussed most often, because you can't really minimize the Holocaust anymore, because being a Holocaust denier is like the most unacceptable thing online. Like everybody will jump at your throat, which obviously it's the right thing to do. But also a lot of people don't know the war crimes that the Nazis did against the Soviets, because communists bad, Cold War propaganda good, and the Soviets are not really humans. Obviously I'm sarcastic because I am of Slavic descent, and the dehumanization of my people has to end at some point. The fact that my people have suffered such severe losses, but we are never talked about in the context of World War II, and it's only other minorities, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be talked about. I'm not saying we should be the center of attention, because no, nobody should be the center of attention of a shared mutual tragedy in which we all suffered. But I'm just saying we are the most overlooked ones, and this is what Sarah is doing here. She's overlooking it. I don't know if it's on purpose or just lack of knowledge. I don't know which one it is. I recognize that my behavior was not correct at first in handling this whole situation, and because I did not listen to the points of view of others. From now on, I will be more cautious when sharing a story that I have in mind. I don't handle a serious topic in a light way again, and I regret every time I did it in the past. Here's the thing, I don't think it's our story to tell. I don't think talking about World War II in a fictionalized way, whether it's romanticized like this or just fictionalized, it shouldn't be done by people who are on the oppressor side. And that's my opinion. No one is obligated to follow me if they do not agree with me. I make it clear as a human being my behavior is not entirely perfect, but it is my responsibility to be a positive influence to those who follow me. I am sorry for blocking comments from followers belonging to the Jewish community or other communities that were also affected, who only wanted to give me their point of view regarding this whole matter. I admit that it was very disrespectful from my part to have ignored them. This is the last time I will talk about this issue, and the only thing I'm looking for is to clarify everything once, including that I let it be known that I recognize that I didn't handle this story and my creations properly. She issued another apology. She has like plenty of them in which she tries to explain herself, but yeah, nobody really was buying it at that point, and she was still blocking comments from mostly Jewish people, because I think they were the most vocal about this. Most of us Slavs, we found out later on in the drama, so most people didn't really get involved at the start. Dear people, it is important that I express this clarification to all of you, because I never imagined the dimensions of confusion that my oscillating art or pictorial narrative about an utopia would generate. How is this an utopia though? This is a fucking like Nazi dystopia. Respect for life, human rights, healthy coexistence among people, and peace have always been my sole philosophy as an adult and independent person. Any political or religious human group that hurts others and enslaves them have always been the object of my contempt. I do not discriminate, and I have never before discriminated against any human being. Neither for his political creed, nor for his religious convictions, nor for his nationality. I respect people of any religion and nation as equal. For this reason, I clarified that my story was more a perversion or psychological fantasy that orbited on the dispossession of the self, in other words, the loss of freedom. But of that fundamental freedom to be master of my own thoughts. I am an artist in every way. Expressing myself, therefore, is my greatest gratification. Of course, respecting others, so that these others respect me back in the same way. If at some point this rugged relationship between the Nazi and the British men affected some of my followers here and their susceptibilities, or by default it disturbed the balance of thought of some, I clarify. This is a fantasy, a mannerism of perversion, in the background more psychological and not at all political and not at all religious. With this said, I hope that I be taken as I am, as an artist and not as a political philosophical disseminator, which is not my interest or my intention in any sense. I extend my best wishes for this year 2021, and we embrace creativity, may it never stop, because that is what the human spirit consists of. I thank those who have understood me about this utopian perversion that helps to underline the dire nature that human history has unfortunately shown us at times. We embrace life, and I wish everyone here a successful 2021, everyone without exception. So that includes the Nazis, I guess, if you say without exception. No, but honestly, I feel like she probably doesn't know what the word utopia means because she keeps using it wrong. And I feel like somebody wrote this or helped her, because if you've seen in her previous posts, her English is kind of garbage, and now her English is almost perfect. So I don't know if somebody like helped her to write this. She has a lot of like sophisticated words which you wouldn't use on a colloquial conversational sense. So I don't know if this is like somebody writing the apology for her, but I find it funny, like extremely funny, that not only that she uses the word utopia wrong, but also that she doesn't mention, not once, the involvement of the Spanish people within the Nazi ranks. The fact that she omits this intentionally, it means that she doesn't understand what the problem is here. It's different if a Jewish person would write something like this, because ultimately I wouldn't like it, I would feel like it's insensitive too, but they are allowed to tell their story however they want to. They are allowed to cope with trauma however they want to. Same with other minorities like Slavs, like I said, like Romani people, whatever. We are all allowed to cope in ways that might not be perceived as normal by the outside world, but it's our trauma, so we cope with it how we want to. But Spanish people don't have such a thing, so it's not really the same. Another statement that she made is, please read the statements done in the post before reading the description. Now talking about the captions in some posts where these two characters appear. I recognize that they could generate confusion and controversy since, as I said before, I had not explained until now. I do not seek to make the public romanticize with the subjects shown. And I admit that I must have used other words and sentences to explain my intentions better, including trigger warning, as I have noticed that people have been offended by this. When I created this story, I was aware that it could be triggering to many people since it touches many sensitive topics, and I understand that. From now on, then, I'll make sure to explain myself better with everything I create. I personally like doing characters who aren't good or perfect with no defects. That's just my way of doing characters, and that's it. Yeah, sure, but the way that you portray them in the sense that you wanted people to romanticize them is not really good. It's fine to write characters that are bad, obviously, but not go about it this way. And it's a shame because Sarah's art is amazing. Like, if you look at it, not the Nazi one, obviously, but like her art in general is so beautiful. But she does shit like this. If there are still people with doubt, you can write them down here and I will answer them. Please do not write sentences without any argument. Be respectful and do not harass anyone. I think that issues like this can be fixed by talking to them and not attacking them. So did you unblock the Jewish people who were trying to explain to you? That's like my main question here is, did you unblock the people? Because if you didn't, then I don't know if you can really say this. I do this post to clarify information about my characters since I feel that there is still a lot to talk about. Lately I got a lot of DMs asking me about my characters, especially William and Heydrich. Today I come to give my views and opinions regarding the story that I have not yet concluded about these two characters. First of all, a brief summary of the story, taking the main themes. The pale-looking white hairless character is named William. He is a British soldier and the story where he is located is during the Second World War. William was a soldier who was caught by the enemy. Here enters the character that has generated the most controversy called Heydrich. Heydrich is indeed a German soldier. His personality and appearance are aspects that I gave him, and they were created by me. I clarified that this character is not based on the Heydrich that existed during that time. The only thing I used was his name and the ideology he followed, nothing more. Heydrich, by kidnapping William, tortures him for pleasure, and William learns that Heydrich is a cannibal. Therefore, his kidnapper tries to turn him like him, forcing him to eat human flesh. All this generates a trauma for William, which leads him to generate a Stockholm syndrome towards his abductor. Due to the relationship that is grown negatively more, both characters are hurting each other, especially Heydrich. I cannot tell the end of the story in detail because it will be a spoiler for this story, but I do let it be known that William managed to escape the denigrating state in which he was living and managed to find out the kind of relationship in which he was poisoned in. So I don't know about the whole spoiler thing because it seems like Sarah has abandoned this story, so I don't know if there's any point to like keep us from knowing about this, because maybe if the ending was actually really good, maybe people would partially forgive how offensive this whole thing was. So I don't know if this is like a good choice, but whatever. Now I will talk about the character that has generated the most to talk about. Heydrich was created for the purpose of depicting evil, sadism, and general instability during the plot. My purpose was to give him various negative aspects in his entire personality. Examples such as being part of a group that follows an ideology with which I do not agree in any respect. Just say it, why are you scared to say the name of it? And being a possessive man with self-destructive and destructive tendencies about what he possesses, like for example William. Many asked me if I try to humanize this character due to his human traits, insecurities and weaknesses, and my answer is no, absolutely not my intention. I have spoken about the weakness of Heydrich, and it is the fact that due to his insecurity to reveal that he has a different sexual orientation from the rest, he generates a deep hatred towards him. With this fact, I do not try to make the viewer sympathize with the fact that he is different from the rest. All these qualities and weaknesses do not cancel the fact that he is a horrible person, and I have no problem with admitting that he indeed is a miserable bastard. So now you are saying that he's evil because he's gay. Like, I don't think that this actually made anything better. I think you just made the situation worse by saying that he's evil because he's gay. Because that's pretty much what you said here, and as somebody who is part of the LGBTQ plus community myself, I do take offense in you saying that shit. And I don't know about humanizing. I think we should not fully dehumanize people like this because ultimately they are human, and if we dehumanize them too much, we will forget that atrocities like this historically have been committed by humans. You know, they're not monsters, they're men, and people are capable of shit like this, and we shouldn't forget. But obviously There's a different type of humanization in the media, which is kind of defending them or expecting for a redemption, which in this case should not be possible, obviously. Even though there can be him being seen holding flowers or singing, that just shows how unstable he is and that his mind is just a big mess and he's not someone who has a normal behavior. All these qualities are added to give depth to the character, not to praise him in any way. Right, and I do feel like people who took offense that he had flowers and stuff, like, I don't agree with that, because even if you look at like the fucking worst person in the world, Hitler, he was vegetarian, he loved animals, he loved art, so he did have some qualities, but obviously they are so deeply overshadowed by how evil he was that the qualities don't even matter. But yeah, I don't think him holding flowers was the problem here. I think it was the fact that you are romanticizing him outside of the story too, through the captions and stuff like that. That is you as the author speaking. It's not a narration per se, it's just you as a normal person speaking about your creation in a positive light. So I don't know, you should have actually expressed what you felt, because if you speak like that as an author, you're not in the story, you're expressing your thoughts as a human being. So that's the problem here, not that he had flowers. I must admit that I understand if there have been misunderstandings thinking that I romanticize the actions of this character, since I have never made a post like this explaining things. I apologize if I was not very clear before, and I recognize that it is my responsibility to clarify something that I have created that may be misunderstood in a negative way. It's not misunderstood, I we're not stupid to misunderstand. Like, this is so demeaning and so patronizing to call people stupid indirectly by saying that we misunderstand. No, it's not that we misunderstand, it's that you as the author did not make it clear when you are talking about the characters in a sense of you being a narrator, and when you are talking about the characters as a human being, as an author. You didn't actually differentiate between these things, so it's your fault. It's not our fault for misunderstanding, it's your fault for not explaining. I clarify once and for all that I do not support the actions shown in this story by both characters. I do not support the ideology discussed within the plot, and I do not want to put both characters as good people. Right, so again, what you're doing here is not naming the ideology, because you're trying to kind of make the situation sound not as bad as it is. Whatever, because they are both bad people, and that's the idea of the story. Nor am I saying that the sexual orientations shown within the plot are bad. I'm not criticizing any orientation here. What I criticize in itself is the type of abusive relationship and the characters in their entirety, with that including the time in which they live. So I don't know about, like, I would like to know more about the story to find out why both of them are bad people. Like, why is the British guy bad specifically? Because if he's a victim, then, you know, I'm actually glad that this character is British, because if this was like a Soviet character, which would have been more historically accurate for who are the majority of prisoners of war were Soviets. But yeah, I'm happy that she didn't even touch my culture, because otherwise I would have been pissed off, because to put a Soviet person as the bad person, but like less bad than the Nazis, like, I would be mad, because I've seen this whole thing online talking about communism and fascism are two sides of the same coin, whatever. No, my people fucking died to stop the Nazis. Like, you get their fucking names out of your mouth, pretty much. And after all this, like, apologies that really did nothing, and this person, like, she just kind of brushed it under the rug after and continued to post her art, which, by the way, it's a shame, because her art is so gorgeous. But I want to talk about how she literally decided to make this character, that is a new character that she hasn't presented formally, apparently, and this was in December. And this character, obviously, the design looks like, I'm not saying it is, because I don't know what it is, but it looks like it's inspired by the KKK. So in conclusion, sarahpdraws, whatever, she never learns. That's the conclusion here. People don't learn. Alright guys, this was today's video. I genuinely don't know what the fuck to say anymore. I am so baffled and upset that people would do this shit and not even understand what they did wrong, and keep doing this like half-assed apologies over and over again, even though it doesn't work. Like, it's so insensitive, and obviously my opinion will be that I am saddened and upset that millions of my people had to die, and this shit, like, I love Slavs, I love my people, I relate to all the Slavic nations. We had a common suffering within this time, and we are often overlooked, and I hope that this ends. I hope that people who did not know about this, because in the West people will hide the extent of drama we went through, because right after World War II, there was a mission to destroy communism. So in order to do that, we had to dehumanize the people who were communists. And they did that, obviously. They dehumanized us to the extent that nobody knew our suffering. And I do wish to like shed a light on that. Hopefully I did that with this video. And I know that this is old tea, but I do feel like it's so important to talk about. And I hope you like it. Give it a thumbs up if you learned anything today, because obviously it's not like an enjoyable video to watch. It's a bit hard to see people who are so oblivious to the damage that they do. Leave a comment down below. Subscribe to my channel for more commentary, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.